Hi, dude. No, hold on. Can you guys hear me? Let me check. Testing, testing. Is this really not working? Oh, I selected the wrong thing. Hold on. Oh, I selected the wrong thing. Hold on. All right. Yeah, no, we're just hopping right into it. So, I mean, Roland, whenever you're ready, you can just join up the Discord. But I thought this would just be a good thing to. I know we talked about this before. We can go back to this. Uh, a pathway to equitable math instruction, dismantling racism and mathematics instruction. Spent a lot of time talking about this, but I'll just we just scroll through it again, just for some good old time laughs. Where do you want links here or Discord? Um, I mean either or. A Twitch chat might be better. That way, if other people watching want to follow along, they can. Um, Obviously, nothing TOS, right? But you know, how y'all doing? Oh my God, I can make myself bigger. Just go ahead and jump in, just a regular channel, voice channel. I'll drag you into the room where I'm at. Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on? Is the audio good?
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn my headset down just a tad. All right, you're about to learn me a thing. We're gonna go in
I'm about
depth
to
and talk about
drag
some.
you down a rabbit hole
All
or
right, well,
two.
well, I want to learn about Roland. I want to learn about anti-racism. How do I become an anti-racist? Explain this to me, especially in mathematics. I want to.
Oh well,
How do we?
and you have to learn that from an anti-racist math teacher, and they're going to teach the math teacher how to be anti-racist with this a math instruction booklet.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to be anti-racism, right? In fact, this right here it says by centering anti-racism, we model how to be anti-racist math educators with accountability. So this is, I'm guessing one portion of the new math. When is this dated? May of 2021. That wasn't too long ago. Um,
And that is all in California now too. Oregon and
yeah.
California, I believe. Probably Washington too, since Washington leads most of the stuff. Washington State.
No, I remember when we talked this. Like, so, what was it right here? Individualism right here
Yep.
is a white supremacy characteristic.
If individualism is white supremacy and white supremacy is bad, our society is individualistic. We have to overthrow society.
Or we have to become more collectivist, right? We become more collectivist here, and also we have to lose our objectivity, and we have to lose our objectivity and become more collectivist, and
So many different
abandon
knowledge that are true.
abandon white supremacy. All right. So what do you got for me, Roland? I can keep this up, or you could
Uh,
learn me a thing or two.
okay. So my basic thing is I'm involved with school boards and understanding the issues on the ground level. Um, and the big thing that's going through school boards right now is new sex ed curriculum. Um, but to be fair, there are three or four major pushes because they're legit by law they're different. There's a library angle which is completely covered by whole different laws, and the American Librarian Association is led by an out and out lesbian Marxist, as said by her daughter, and there's a lot of overturning white supremacy from the libraries. Um, and
Well, hold on. Let's hold on one
uh,
second. So the American Librarian Association. What is this? I've never even heard of this before. I don't know. Do they have an association now?
yeah, it's the association that runs basically school libraries. It's called the ALA.
Okay. And
Uh,
this runs. Is this like a government? This is a Okay, this is it's a non-profit based. It promotes libraries. This doesn't own all the public libraries, right?
No, it doesn't own.
Okay,
I'm
thank
not
God.
sure on the structure. I don't want to make any claims on that. I know they're. I believe they certify librarians, and then their librarians will go into libraries or schools.
Gotcha.
But that's not my main focus. But on the library front, there's a lot of book battles, and that's where you see the so-called book bannings or what books are allowed in schools or not. Um, it's just that is covered by a whole different set of laws than what is actually going on in the classroom. So it's a whole different avenue on what to deal with. And that's where you're going to get books like All Boys Aren't Blue, Genderqueer. Um, I can't even name all of them.
So,
Uh,
genderqueer especially, I can't show that book on stream because it'd violate Twitch's TOS. But my understanding is that book, and now that was in school classrooms. Does the American Library Association, were they pushing for that to be like to stay in classrooms?
usually, Genderqueer is in a library, and then teachers or lessons will recommend go to your library for more information.
Okay,
Um,
so they're still in there, right? As we're speaking, I guess maybe not in Florida, but in a lot of places they're still in classrooms.
oh, okay. I'm again. I'm not in Wisconsin. It's much clearer on what is allowed in classrooms versus libraries, and people are pushing back on libraries right now because, like, if I had one parent, if you he walked into his child's middle school library, and every end cap and every top of every a bookshelf was all celebrating LGBTQ books throughout the whole library.
I'm looking it up. Um, this is wildly, along with Lawn Boy, and which I
Yeah,
also have seen pictures of. I can't show that on Twitch because it'll violate TOS. All Boys Aren't Blue. I don't think I've looked at that one yet. And it's still in, yeah, it's still in school libraries. So it's,
right. You literally have to go district by district and board
yep.
by board in order to get that. And then the librarians, their defense is we just whatever we get in, we put on their shelf. And when you look into how libraries work, they're not lying there. They will get a shipment of hundreds of books, and they will just put them up because they usually come pre-approved by some organization, and then they just get mailed them. So they get to pass the buck there.
Do you
Um,
know how much influence the American Library Association has in deciding what books go in classrooms for children?
you keep saying classrooms.
Or sorry, school libraries. You're right, school libraries.
I am not on the specifics on that because my focus has been the curriculum or
Okay.
the sex ed a, a curriculum. I've That's a rabbit hole I'd like to go down. If you want more information on that, there's actually a person. Let me go to Twitter. I've been in contact with him a little bit. I believe his name is Dan Kleinman. He's really into, yeah, exposing the libraries and the librarians. This is his Twitter. If you want to follow it,
Sure, sure.
that'll be in chat.
Because that's the big thing, right? Like if there's yeah, I'll give them a follow. If there is if the American Library Association is involved in dictating what, or I mean not dictating, but recommending. Any, I don't know how bureaucracy works, which is if they recommend it and the school just kind of slides it in, no one's really going to notice until they do and they get angry. But if they are the ones approving, if this organization is the ones that are approving these books, and it's because of them that
Yes.
the books are getting into school libraries, and this is run by a self-proclaimed Marxist, I think that's probably an issue. It's probably a pretty bad issue, I would assume.
You You can tell a Rothbard is asking in chat how involved in school boards. Right now, I'm doing more research on like state level policy and the policy docs. Sometimes I'll go and speak at school boards. Um, I spoke at a number of school board meetings and different school boards. I'm not on any school boards. I was asked to run for one, but I did not live in that district. Um, but I've been in contact with the people, or quote unquote our people on that school board to bring them up to speed on what's going on in the sex ed curriculum. Um,
How
but
about we
yeah,
just
that
start with that? How about we start with that? Then that might give me a better idea of like where to go and like what to ask. So,
okay.
what specifically are I guess what's the work that you're doing on the school boards and what have you learned specifically about social emotional learning?
Okay, so a social emotional learning is going to be different than the sex ed stuff.
Okay.
The social emotional learning is a more of a general program that they try to incorporate throughout everything at the school. There'll be special lessons or breakout lessons there. What seems to be happening at that level is so school boards will elect a superintendent, and the organizations that help school boards find quality candidates are actually quite left. And so incoming school in or sorry, supers are generally bringing in a program now called Portrait of a Graduate, and you're going to want to look up Portrait of a Graduate. That's going to be where they pick what values and what it means to be a graduate. So they'll pick a vision of a graduate, and then what they're really doing is they're seeking to define what it means to be a competent graduate or and ready for the future, and what it means to be college ready. And so, in order to have those competencies, you're going to need to, or they will teach you a certain values, and that's where you're going to get a lot of inclusivity stuff and a lot of acceptance or um, a learning about a systemic. I don't want to say a systemic racism. That might be one, but yeah, you'll see that pop up everywhere. Um, but just a general a theme of teaching you what values are proper. Whereas when you look in earlier literature, it's all about deferring to the values of the parents. So now your portrait of a graduate is going to teach you the proper values. I do see you pulling it up on screen.
Yeah, I was
Great.
looking at it on a different one, but I was taking a look here. So I'm guessing this is another nonprofit, and then this one,
Everything becomes a nonprofit because they can hide financials,
right.
or sorry, not hide financials, but declare less on them. But
So I think the homepage on this one's kind of interesting. Hold on, how do I get to? Yeah, so this one right here. Coming up, yeah, it's coming up on stream.
the
So traditional learning, you can see here is clearly bad. Math, science, English, and social studies, they're all in gray. And as you can see here, this little kid right here, he hates it, right? This little kid, he's got his head down in his books, and he is, oh my God, he is frustrated. She seems to be doing okay. She's doing her work, but that little boy does not like the schoolwork. And then we look over here under deeper learning on the right side, and interestingly, before when it was, I think this is two white children, or sorry, four white children in the gray traditional learning circle. Now we have a young black girl with what looks like a white kid, I think, under deeper learning, which is all in color now with a much bigger photo. And we have content mastery, empathy, creative thinking, adaptability, and collaboration.
And they're really going to twist empathy because in order to be inclusive or allow everyone in, you'll have to imagine how they will feel, and if you don't have the right values, you won't be empathetic, and you won't be able to adapt to the new situations and have that adaptability.
Our portrait of a graduate design process engages the education system and the broader community, educators, students, elected officials, community members, and families to help you build a unifying collective vision for your students. Bringing together these diverse perspectives is essential for enduring educational transformation. And then we see here their goal is to bring in all of these organizations here: social service agencies, policymakers, school leaders, district leaders, families, educators, students, communities of faith. It's interesting. So what, like, I guess, how much power does this organization really have in, like, it's going to differ by district, but I guess based on your experience and the work you've been doing for school boards, I mean, how involved is this organization right here?
Um, I mean, basically, I know it's a confined geographic area, but every school board I've been to is either adapting or adopting portrait of a graduate or already has it.
Okay, is
I
it
don't.
primarily on the
Scott might be
coasts?
able. Scott might be able to find or know the broader statistic. I am unaware of that. Um, I wasn't too concerned with finding how wide this is. It's ever since I found out it was being pushed by the supers. It just seems like it'll be pushed whenever they get a new super in. So,
Gotcha. All right. So we got portrait of a graduate. What else is happening? What else is trying to?
well, that's going to be your SEL program.
Okay.
That's what that
This is part of
SEL
the
program.
SEL programs.
Yes, that's what it'll be brought in under.
I know there was another thing. Hold on a second. There was
You're
a
probably thinking of the Castle Transformative Social Emotional Learning.
Yeah, Castle.
Yeah. Um, it's all. How do I speak it? It's all depending upon if they use Castle as a framework for their program, but the the program still has to have a name and a sales pitch, and I haven't gotten the split between which is Portrait of a Graduate and which is Castle, but yes, Castle is also a very big.
the concerning thing is, so what I have up here,
You might need to break the law.
this is a this is a government website. This is directly from the Department of Education that I found this.
Oh,
Robert,
really?
yeah, and so
Okay.
this is they're posting work from Castle, right? So this is an ed.gov text. Um, Robert Jaggers, I looked into him. I think he's the vice president of research with Castle, and he has a pretty extensive history with his writings, of saying the kind of things I think that you're talking about, and the fact that this is so, like, for example, you know, this is a fairly benign statement, I think, right? Um, you can look for buzzwords though, but I think overall this is fairly
Right.
benign. The pandemic brought our society's systemic racism and economic inequity to sharper relief and further energized our work. I believe this is the it may have been his other writings. So he wrote this, and this is published on the government website. But some of his prior writings, he goes into way more detail about his actual sort of belief, and how the education system should be run. We're going to bring that up uh, in a bit for sure. But I mean, it states some pretty crazy shit. So I mean,
Uh,
how much have you seen like Castle being involved from what you know, from what you've
Um,
seen?
I am not, again, the sex ed stuff has been more my forte. If you really want to get into and understand the SEL stuff, I can find another person. One second.
Sure.
It's not Kelly. It's who is it? Uh, because Kelly is going to be the sex ed, and then Elisa Logan. She's really into understanding and breaking down all of the different SEL people. There's Lisa Logan's Twitter. That's going to be another one you want to follow. Um, she breaks it down into great detail.
Some scholars have suggested that book clubs, curriculum, labs, and professional learning communities, this is a government website, and professional learning communities provide means to develop a constructive white racial identity, reducing microaggressions, and enacting greater cultural, ethnic, and racial literacy. Research indicates, however, that relying solely on beliefs focused professional development has no appreciable sustained impact on teaching practices. Worse, it could foster resentment among some white teachers. Fortunately, moving from beliefs to actions is effective. For example, research indicates that active co learning opportunities like community walks, project based learning, and youth participatory action research improve teachers' attitude and instructional practices with students from diverse backgrounds.
Um, just as a word of warning, whenever they say a research shows, you really have to look at that because that's going to be something I talk about later in the sex ed stuff. So one of the ways they define an effective sex ed program is if it improves uh, a survey response scores in at least one out of nine areas, and that can be after the fact. So it doesn't have to be the one you're targeting. They just get to call it effective if it changes in a positive direction. One of nine things in a
Yeah,
survey.
I did look at that, and I did a lot of research into like the shit when I was preparing for the affirmative action debates that I had a while ago, just
Mhm.
before the Supreme Court decision, and the research on this is not conclusive whatsoever. There's a lot of research that actually that just simply doesn't indicate like a lot of what's being said here, right?
Well,
So,
not only that, but specifically for SEL, the SEL that has been studied is individual from a psychologist, psychiatrist, one of the two people you go into, and not SEL applied to a group of people by an unlicensed uh, by a teacher who's unlicensed in psychology,
right.
and they look to provide and teach the whole district into uh, their SEL. So,
Okay.
and then you also read Castle's white paper talking about the critical democracy and how you might have
Yes.
to break the law.
Yes, a critical democracy. So yeah, I want to bring that up. Hold on one second. So keep in mind, so this is by Robert Jaggers, who is also the Vice President of Research with Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, CASEL. This organization is what created this. It's what created this paper, which is now published by the government. Now let's look at what else he has written. Hold on. Yeah, here. Oh, this is wrong. Did I not save the link? I don't know if I saved the link.
Uh,
I was
you want
deleted from. Can you if you have it, you can link it. That'd be great.
it used to be from my source. I know he had it. Let me see if it's still there. Um, All right, I got it. Nope, they deleted it.
They
Did you
deleted
get
it.
did you get a 404?
I got a 404 when I tried to open it.
Yeah. Uh well, for those in chat who don't or who might be skeptical, here's where you would be able to find it. Because it's also by Daggers.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to use the Wayback Machine. We're going to try to find it.
This is
Why would they delete it?
because it showed up in a certain person's YouTube videos. Uh, wait. Also, it goes to the Orange County Department of Education and not Castle.
Yep, I'm trying to use the Wayback Machine. Hold on a second. Found it. Haha, you can't hide it from me.
Oh, they totally changed the website too. So, all right.
They
Yes.
did you find it without the Wayback Machine, or did they just
No, I would definitely like the link.
Yeah, hold on, I'll post it.
Yeah.
They
Sweet.
want to hide the truth of what they said.
This is it.
All right, so we had to use the Wayback Machine, friends, because they
Yes,
deleted.
like they have made some stuff harder to find.
But this is right here: transformative social and emotional learning towards social emotional learning in service of education, equity, and excellence. Robert J. Jaggers. Remember this guy? This is the guy that was writing for the Department of Education. Um, this paper, and I posted it in Twitch chat for those of you who want to take a look at it. It's pretty wild. There's some stuff here I think that is pretty wild. I'm gonna follow. What was the exact part I found that was just absolutely crazy?
It wasn't the critical democracy part. It would have been trying to remember off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
right here. In the United States and many other westernized societies, there are dominant cultural themes of individualism and materialism that suggest that the primary meaning of maturity, success, and happiness is defined as being self-sufficient, autonomous, and financially well off. Although this orientation has brought about technological advances that improve the basic material conditions for many, it also fosters elevated levels of greed, avarice, utilitarianism, and unethical behaviors. Why did they include utilitarianism as a negative aspect of Western society? I thought they were utilitarians.
That's what I would have thought because they're definitely. I mean, if they're not utilitarian, they're totally consequentialist, and I know they're basically twins or cousins. Um, I have no clue why he specifically included utilitarian because that's how they do all their analysis, and we need to get our goal.
All right. Okay. Um, let's go to the critical democracy part. Yeah, right here.
Yeah. Oh, and then this is where they show the 9 different types of SEL, and what they're preaching is like at the top right corner, around where what's only been studied has been the bottom left corner. They make a little square grid somewhere.
I think
And
this is a great right here.
yeah,
Right. Briefly, they argue that education aimed at, and he goes on later to argue for critical democracy. Right. So
yes,
this is what he wants. Briefly, they argue that education aimed at promoting personally responsible citizenship and its attendant individualism, consumerism, and passivity accords with the dominant neoliberal democracy. This is the dominant model. However, a critical democracy requires education to have collectivism, produce interactionism, and authentic engagement as its goals. Accordingly, the field of SEL could aim to prepare citizens for not only engaged, but also critical citizenship. He's quite literally arguing for collectivism here. Like he uses the
Yes.
word collectivism. That's, I think,
Yes.
a pretty powerful word. And do you think this is? I think this is pretty mask off a little bit. I mean, obviously not completely because it's a white paper. That's not, it's not meant for. This wasn't. I don't think this was submitted to the government. I don't think it was submitted to news agencies.
Right.
But we have the person who's writing for the Department of Education or advocating for collectivism within lesson plans to promote critical citizenship and critical democracy.
Yes. And then read further on the different types of citizenships. There's failed citizenship, like critical citizenship.
Ah, yes, there's failed citizenship, and only good citizenship is critical citizenship. Failed citizenship captures when a domestic or immigrant individuals or group feels structurally excluded from and ambivalent towards the nation state and do not internalize its values or ethos. Rather, they focus on their group identity and political efficacy to achieve
Partic-
structural inclusion.
Transformative citizenship.
Oh, look at this. We have a whole framework.
Oh, you're going to see that a wheel everywhere, by the way. But
They like the wheel, huh?
they do.
So with these outcomes, I mean, the outcomes they're claiming aren't terrible, right? Improved attitudes towards yourself, others, and tasks, perceived classroom and school climate, positive social behaviors, academic success, fewer conduct problems, less emotional distress, less drug use.
But all
This
that
is
comes off the back of the studies that have been done on the individualized SEL done by the psychiatrists in a clinical setting.
right, right. It's in a clinical setting, and they, my
And
understanding
they're
is,
licensed.
and there's very specific people that they're measuring as well. Whoa, hold on.
Right.
Tentative list.
Identity is central. Critical self analysis. Gotta have the cultural humility. You gotta always
Yeah, what do they
be
mean by
aware
cultural
of the group.
humility?
Uh, Cultural relativism, and then also understanding power dynamics and uh, when your culture might be asserting a power dynamic over another. As basically, anytime they use the word humility, is you have to be willing to be told you're wrong and your group is wrong. Yeah,
They really like the word collective, I've noticed.
because they want to talk about groups. The group subsuming the individual.
Oh, they describe it. Okay, let's find where I want to see where they describe the. Oh, of course, they don't describe the stuff with critical in it. They just, or sorry, collective in it. They just describe some social awareness, relationship skills, etc. Which, I mean, I can agree. Like some social awareness and relationship skills can be a good thing to teach children.
Oh wait, though, stop! You're missing it. Competence in social awareness domain involves the critical historical
Wait a
ground.
minute. Oh no, I totally
So,
fucking missed that.
uh, so you, so you have to know and have your history grounded in critical theory and basically a Marxist cultural analysis.
Competence in the social awareness domain involves having the critical historical grounding to take the perspectives of those with the same and different backgrounds and cultures and to appropriately empathize and feel compassion. It also involves understanding social norms for constructive behavior in diverse interpersonal and institutional settings and recognizing family, school, and community resources and supports for personal and collective well being. Yeah, I totally glossed over that. Why don't they use this language and like, they're introducing the school to parents? Like, do they talk about that? Does the school board talk about this during their meetings? Do they use language like this whenever they're talking about lesson plans or hiring supers?
Um, I don't want to say yes. I haven't seen this sort, but I have seen and watched uh, our one school board struggle with their equity plan, and that was more about uh, disparities in discipline and outcomes in discipline. Um, but they weren't analyzing the SEL program or any sort of program on this level out in public. We do have one very leftist person who heads the school board. I'm not going to name her, but even she's a little more political in her language.
Despite its connection to health problems, unethical behavior, and climate change, the cultural orientation towards acquisitive individualism continues to be a dominant theme promoted within U.S. cultural institutions, including schools.
How to critique what they don't want.
Despite its connection to unethical behavior,
Yes, that's going to be whatever they deem unethical because they aren't inclusive enough or whatever.
for example, a communal orientation towards one's family, ethnic/racial group, or community reduces psychological distress and risky behaviors and promotes a range of positive social, socio-emotional, and academic outcomes, including school engagement, learning of academic content, and pro-social behaviors. So here's a question then. For example, let's read this like literally. For example, a communal orientation towards one's ethnic and racial group reduces psychological distress and risky behaviors.
So white supremacists should be acting right.
Are they including white people in that? That's the question I have, right? If is a communal orientation towards white people among white students, is this paper arguing for that? I don't think it is. But I mean,
I think
arguably, for the sentences.
I think they would say no because they're already critiquing the dominant power structure or the dominant mode of a, a society, and that's where they would include the white people. So by default, they wouldn't be.
But it's still an ethnic/racial group, right? Like
Oh,
even if it's powerful or not.
I understand. I'm saying I think in their mind they've already ruled out white people before they started writing the sentence.
They leave out white people in the sentence before. Other cultural orientations or values provide an
Yeah.
alternative sense of self and are an important asset to some ethnic and racial groups, including Latino, Asian American, and African American youth. Um, okay, so he appears to argue directly for racial identitarianism with that sentence right there.
They definitely want to focus on race level, group level analysis.
This fosters a sense. This is talking about culturally seeing white people as rich and black people as poor. I think we all know a famous person that did that. But this fosters a sense of white racial entitlement and unearned privilege, as well as negative racialized biases and stereotypes about people of color and those from low income backgrounds. As a result, there's a voluminous literature on ethnic and racial identity development. He cites a bunch of people. I haven't read these underlying studies. As such, the present article focuses on ethnic/racial as an exemplar of social identity.
Identify with your race.
present article focuses on ethnic/racial as an exemplar of social identity. Decades of research indicates that children, youth, and adults are actively and regularly grappling with the meaning of their own race and the role of race more generally in their lives and society.
Although that doesn't say why it should be included in an SEL program in schools.
One's sense of racial ethnic centrality, and private regard for their group are most relevant to self awareness. Social awareness is implicated in public regard of one's racial/ethnic group. Um,
I know you're interested in SEL stuff. Would you like to see what's going on with the sex ed stuff and why you're seeing
yeah.
school board meetings on the news and why the FBI is monitoring school boards?
We could. I mean, we could read this all day, but I know there was some very specific stuff you wanted to talk about. So,
All right,
well,
time to.
this was a good intro in how we're being brainwashed. But let's talk about sex ed.
Okay, so as far as sex ed, the backstory to this is in the aughts, three groups were three lefty groups were pushing for comprehensive sex ed, so a not absence sex ed, and they came together and they formed their own organization called Future of Sex Ed, um, which was just an amalgamation of the three groups. The three groups are Answers at Rutgers, SIECUS, SIECUS, and Advocates for Youth. Um, and so they put out in 2011, they put out the first edition of what they called the National Sexuality Education Standards. And states around the nation, I know my state has pushed this onto school boards, and then I know Illinois. What triggered one person to get on the school board locally was seeing Illinois adopt something that pushed this directly onto school boards. Um, but they were pushing the second standards. So the first link I'm posting in chat is the 2011 standards, and then there was actually an update done in 2020. Ironically, I think right before George Floyd. But if you want to read like pages 8 to 14 on the updated standards, the big thing to remember is so in my state, the sex ed curriculum has to be re-upped every 3 years at the school board level for the district. So most schools are just seeing that they have to re-up their sex ed curriculum, and this is when people will come to them and say, "These are the new standards," or the national standards, or these are the updated standards to what we were using before. So, as a personal story, the local school board right now is using the 2011 standards, and the curriculum is coming up next year, and we know the head of the school board is going to push the updated standards. Which if you click on the updated standards, you will see a heavy focus on inclusion, gender, gender expression, gender identity, um, and a whole lot. Oh, and racism and systemic racism, all in sex ed. And there are a few more topics there. I forget off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know if I can actually even. I don't. I'm not. So I'm looking through them. I don't know if I can really. Can I open these on stream, or do they? I never know what fucking shit they pictures and shit they include in these.
Oh no, there aren't pictures in this at all, so you'll
Okay,
do fine.
good.
Um, if and it's kind of funny because the first standards are all a boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. The updated standards drop all mention of boys and girls, and they move to saying bodies with natural variation, unless they want to talk about gender expectations. Then they'll talk about what boys and girls should be.
You said the FBI is investigating them?
Uh, the FBI has been monitoring school boards because um, who's the head of the DOJ? The head of the DOJ told someone to write a memo to them because some school board meeting in Virginia got violent or shouted down, and that was because it was the dad of the whose daughter got raped in the women's bathroom by a male student. Well, a male student. Yeah, that's correct. So
How loud am I right now?
I have you on my iPad ask chat.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna listen to myself. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna listen to myself. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna listen to myself. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna listen. You talk now.
I'm here. I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, I keep turning up the gain, but for some reason, this has been like a consistent issue. All right, I really kicked up the fucking gain.
You do sound louder on my end. You do sound louder.
All right, let's see if I sound louder on my stream. Hold on one second. See if I sound louder on my stream. Hold on one second. See if I sound louder on my. Yeah, I have my mic volume in OBS is max right now. So I got a lot more gain room to go though, so I can keep turning it up. How about now? Am I pretty loud? How about now? Am I pretty loud? How about now? Go ahead and talk.
Yo.
Okay, I'm just gonna fucking turn down the volume real quick. That way people can turn up their own volume if they want to have it be equal. There you go. All right. We are not gonna spend today, or at least right now, learning audio because I'm a fucking boomer. I don't understand audio right now. But you know, it's a never-ending quest to fix it.
A chat saying we're the same volume, although I don't know if you're the same volume. So
Awesome. We're the same volume, or I'm the exact same volume as before. You're saying?
yeah, I was just saying I don't know if he means just you or both of us.
Yeah, I don't know.
Darko, who's the same volume? Both of us or just him? He says
All
we
right,
can fix it.
we'll fix it at the stream.
So if you go down, I believe just the next page on that document that you have up, it starts on document page 10,
Okay, yeah, I'm here.
and it goes on for 2 pages. So scroll down, and then it'll show you what's new and the focus on that in large part. They have big headings, so you'll be able to find it. Oh, there'll be a bigger headers if you go to the next page. Oh, a document page 10. So the next one.
Gosh, I'm just reading through these.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So high expectations. Sure, sure, sure. Now, if I told you functional knowledge and skills and said Is pleasure one of those? Would you say yes or no?
Oh no. Do they actually have a portion?
No, not in here. It just opens the doors to curriculums that do. So,
Um, hmm. I think that you can have functional, well, I guess skills at what, as I suppose is the
oh,
question. Yeah. Skills at
uh,
putting on a condom? I mean, that's technically a skill, right?
yeah, and that's something that can be taught. The one big thing that I missed is that so these are standards that the state is telling the school board to judge curriculums by. This isn't the curriculum itself. It is saying judge a curriculum by these guidelines.
Right, because every curriculum is going to be a little bit different.
Right. And so this is a document that people and the curriculum makers are looking at and saying, all right, now my curriculum needs to conform to this. But it starts getting really bad on the next page. Well, as far as on a philosophy that we don't agree with, or I don't. I don't know about you.
Sex education should avoid cisnormative, heteronormative approaches aimed at strengthening young people's capacity to challenge harmful stereotypes and be inclusive in a wide range of viewpoints and populations without stigmatizing any group. We should acknowledge the role that structural and contextual factors, personal, interpersonal, social, economic, and cultural, play in shaping adolescents' sexual motivations and behaviors with the fundamental goal of removing economic, racial, ethnic, gender, sexual orientation, and ability related disparities in adolescent sexual health. Health outcomes are largely influenced by biology and genetics. That's edgy that they bring that up. Um, Individual behavior, social environment, physical environment, and availability of health services. These factors interact and influence health outcomes for individuals. Given this, the updated NSES calls attention to overt and covert discrimination, which may be based on biases, including institutional, structural, interpersonal, and internalized racism. Oh boy.
So basically, this is going to be teaching the subjective philosophies because how else would you how else would you have to think about a covert racism or structural racism or you can make claims for institutional racism, but any sort of systemic racism or internalized racism is or unconscious bias is going to be a purely subjective philosophy. So on top of that, they use what you read in order to, if you scroll up like two lines, they're going to introduce two kids, a social justice, racial justice, and reproductive justice and equity into sex ed curriculum.
What's reproductive justice?
I'm
What does that
glad
what
you
does that
asked.
mean?
I am glad you asked. I'm glad you picked that up. It has to do with the crime and the ability to for a woman to uh, have and keep a baby that's well maintained. Maintains the wrong word. What's a freaking okay? So various places define it differently. A sister song defines it as a human right to maintain personally bodily autonomy, to have children, not have children, and to parent children in safe and sustainable communities. So there's your reach from the school into the community. So you can't have reproductive justice until the neighborhood is safe. And you can't have reproductive justice until you are a good parent or a what language do they use? A safe and sustainable community.
There also feels like there's maybe like a little bit of some pro-choice language there as well. In terms
Oh
of
yeah,
like justice is their like to have a child, their right to have a child. Is anybody trying to like take away their right to get pregnant from people?
I know. I know that.
Oh, right here, including young people who are pregnant or parenting should have decision making power,
Yeah,
reproductive health, and their decision to determine with, when, and under what circumstances they do or do not want to parent. If you're
yeah.
parenting, what do you mean their decision to determine when they want to parent? There's like a legal
Well,
obligation for you to parent.
n- not if you say I'm putting you up for adoption.
Yeah, that's true, but you, I guess. But then you got to find someone to adopt them, right? I guess you could just throw them in a foster home. Oh my God.
And so more down your critical race theory rabbit hole, smack him right into your sex education intersectionality.
Intersectionality looks at the relationships between these marginalized identities and the way that multiple systems of oppression interact in the lives of those with multiple marginalized identities, and how
So
this
now
makes
they have to teach all your social and marginalized identities, all your transes.
in sex education, right?
Right.
So what? I mean, this might be a dumb question, but like reproductive justice. Are they saying that race has something to do with that? I mean, I'm guessing they're gonna like. Okay, I can see how they can
I mean, they're going to say like
the link.
violence
Yeah, yeah.
in the communities to be most fair to them. That only comes up in the high school curriculum. That specific topic, but so if you're inclusive, again, you're submitting to a totally subjective underlying philosophy. There is no objective reality.
And this is the standards for the nation, right?
Um, okay, so again, no, they're not the standards for the nation. These are standards that a left wing organization, a leftist organization, would like to have be the standards. These are not put out by the government.
How much actual influence do they have then in pushing this forward? Because if this is just some
No, no,
fucking
no.
left
Okay,
wing,
that's
jerk
a decent
offs.
question. I will tell you a lot. Um, I, to the best of my knowledge, the way the person framed it was Illinois at the state level put this into their education. So they're using these as the reference guide. My state recommends the first version of these as the guidelines to judge curriculum by. However, what I will say is that document was written in 2014. They've not had the chance to update this to the 2020. I wanted to go state by state to show this, but I believe it's enough to say with two states, and especially my own state, having this in public policy, which I will give you that document. Uh, this is the document that school boards will get and how they should treat and teach sex ed. Um, and you're going to want to look for national sex. And that will be on document page 140. They are referenced explicitly as the only standards to judge curriculums by. Now,
Document page 140.
yeah,
Okay, hold on. And
and
this
now
this is
to be
Wisconsin.
fair, the school board members I've talked to also know they aren't required to judge curriculums by, but it is the only one put forward in our state documents. It'll be the top of document page 140. You also don't have that doc on screen. I don't know if they want to
I
see
don't
it.
have it on. I don't have it on screen, but I do have it
Okay,
on a different
sure.
window.
I I was just wondering if a chat wanted to see it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying the goal of the national. bring it up.
So the document you're looking at now, again, was written in 2014. It is yet to be updated in my state. I personally am trying to find this exact document in every state. I don't know what to look for it or where to call. So if chat could help me find this document for their state, it would be much appreciated. I have put it in chat. Um,
So, what is this? What is the top part? What does this mean? Does this say? Um,
so if you go up to the a page before, they're talking about state standards, parental support, the connections with state standards, and then that paragraph ends with recognizing that health education is often given precious a little time in school curriculum and sexuality education far less time. These standards can guide school districts and human growth and development committees in choosing the most critical content based on the needs of their student body. So it's basically telling school boards use this to judge your curriculum.
it National Sexuality Education Standards, Core Content and Skills, K through 12.
Yes, and that is going to be the one reference there is going to be the
Yeah,
2011 document.
yeah. Okay, so it's directly referencing this one.
Well, to be
Well, not
fair,
this
in
one,
that
the one from 2014. Yeah,
2011, yeah.
2011. Okay, and so Wisconsin still hasn't updated it to this one yet.
But explicitly, I will tell you, I've been in the 3 school boards I have talked to uh, that were undergoing a sex ed curriculum update. 2 of them explicitly said, we were using the old standards. Why aren't we just using the new standards? Obviously, the state would support this. And they have credence when they say that, because the the head of the Department of Education that wrote this is now our governor. So that has sway.
Evers wrote this?
Yes. He was the head of the if you go all the way to the first page, on the bottom of the first page it'll say
Uh, okay. It's prepared by someone named Lori Stern, though,
right.
under direction of Tony Evers, state superintendent.
And so that's under the executive branch. So why wouldn't Evers now support the updated standards? That's their argument.
But he hasn't yet.
Well, neither did our previous governor. It just wasn't updated. Like,
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's some good news.
so at the public policy level, this is being pushed at a lot of places, and a lot of not just one-off places. It's embedded in policy. It's not your random libs of TikTok thing. This is actually what's being pushed.
Right.
Uh, you can go line by line there if you go down far enough, and eventually you'll get to grids, and you you can read through the core concepts. The one thing I would point you to is, if you pay attention to the advocacy a column in middle school, they teach the kids like how to advocate at the school level, and then at the end of high school, they want so you can go to the 12th grade level. They want community participation and involvement, advocating for, and then they list the specific ish. They list the specific topics they want students being involved in local politics and school politics in order to get more resources. And but you're on a K to 2 right now, And so the advocacy comes from, in the previous version, it was the ability to say no or to define your own boundaries. So that's fine. Like personal boundaries and personal advocacy, that's fine. But you get into dangerous areas, like document page 35 on that. It says advocacy for school and community policies and programs that promote dignity and respect people of all genders, gender expressions, gender identities, and sexual orientations. So that just tells you what you need to be advocating for. Um, and then continue to advocate for school and community policies that promote safety, respect, and equity for all people. I mean, that's straight creating activists. So basically, you're creating a mechanism by which, if someone wanted to change the curriculum and make it fascist, they could still use the mechanisms you created to make a Hitler Youth. Like, I think that those last steps in high school are not needed.
Okay. So we don't have to go into like I don't think we even have to go there, right?
Okay.
When we talk, I hear this argument, mechanisms can be abused. That's probably true.
Oh no,
I,
right.
I I don't know how much more, like, maybe you might be a little bit more NCAP than I am. I don't know.
No,
What generally would you describe yourself as? I guess I know it's not
I
perfect. Identities are pointless, but I mean, if you had to.
right. I mean, unwoke or not woke. I mean, I see a purpose for the government,
Okay.
if only to make it small, and that's because I'm not willing to go to anarchism. Like I'm generally on the right on most things. I do see, if you're going to have some socialized stuff, like I have an idea that if a Republican pushed it, would get a lot of broad support, but and that would be more in the area of a socialized medicine kind of.
Gotcha. So I wanted to, I guess, go through a couple things. I
Sure.
actually think the grades K through 2 is interesting. Okay, so
Yes.
describe characteristics of a friend. Um, okay, interesting. I don't think there's anything nefarious about that. Define bodily autonomy and personal boundaries.
I'll wait
Okay.
till you get to grades 3 through 5 too.
Oh, I know, but, for sure. But I want to stick here for a second.
Sure.
Define consent. This, I would argue, is a political definition, but sure, we can talk about that. Because consent is, I think, a broad subject.
I mean,
Very, very libertarian subject, in my opinion. But that's
right.
identify different kinds of families. For example, nuclear, single parent, blended. Okay, I don't know what that means. Intergenerational, cohabitating, adopted, foster, same gender, and interracial.
Yes. Already with the gender thing, like
I'm just confused as to what the importance of being able to identify an interracial relationship is. Like, um, it's for a second grader. Like, if you have a second grader and we have to inform them, hey, just so you know, little Billy's parents over there, they are in a interracial marriage where Billy's dad is white and Billy's mom is black. I'm just
uh,
curious as to why this is a core concept for sex ed.
because they need to bring race into it somehow. I mean, honestly, I couldn't think of reasons why they had that either. That bothered me.
Yeah, this is a core concept, teaching little Billy how to identify interracial relationships or families, I suppose. Um, List medically accurate names for body parts, including the genitals. I agree with this actually completely. I
Yes.
always thought it was so fucking weird when people came up with different names like that. We had no idea what they meant,
Yeah.
like because they just couldn't say the name of the body part.
Right.
Absolutely, I like that. Demonstrate how to communicate personal boundaries and show respect for somebody else's personal boundaries. I like this if they included like parentheses, including like their property. That'd be so sick, but that's happening. Um, explain why it's important to show respect for different kinds of families, e.g., nuclear, single parent, blended,
Right.
intergenerational, cohabitating, same gender, interracial. So this one's a little bit political, right? Um, not completely. I guess depending on how they like show respect. I think we're gonna get into like the more partisan shit later on. Um,
Yeah.
oh, at the end of second grade, students should be able to define gender
Yep.
identity, and gender role stereotypes, and discuss the range of ways people express their gender and how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior.
Ding, ding, ding.
Second grade.
Yes.
Second graders have to be able to discuss how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior.
Okay. And I got something that is about perfect for this right now. Now, in the HGD document I linked you before, if you read all the footnotes, they a link in Advocates for Youth paper that talks about explicitly how easy it is to take the core concepts of this curriculum and apply it and get it into other subjects, mainly social studies and English. Now, on school board fights that I've been a part of, I've went through and they've explicitly taken some of these concepts and put them into social studies in English. And I called them out on it on one of the school boards, and I said, "No, this isn't opt out because what you have coded in pink is stuff that you're putting in other subjects that you won't let parents opt their kids out of, and it's all about gender." So this isn't going just to sex ed. It's also going straight into other subjects.
One of the things that like, especially with it being sex ed, it seems like there's sort of like a complete blending of like all subjects have to include like a sociological analysis at all times. Um, like math, I had at the beginning we had math up, and then sex ed,
Mm-hmm.
and now English. Like everything has to include like it has to permeate everything. This sort of
Yes.
like sociological or like I would honestly call it more along the lines of social engineering, right? Like
Well,
the
wait.
government has a concept of what they want people to think, and
You
this is the way to do it.
you hit it perfectly, and I have one link to explain why that is. I want you to click on that link,
Okay.
and then I want you to read the slogan, and I want it on screen.
I'm sure you do. Okay, we got to remember
Uh,
this page though, page 22. Remember that.
this is the big organization, or one of the big organizations behind the creation of these standards. So you said social engineering. So read that slogan.
Sex ed for social change.
Yes. That's why they're social engineering, because they want it. They view the sex ed as a vehicle to get a social change.
So when I have conversations with people about oh, of course they hate the Supreme Court. Yeah, this is just overtly political. So when I have conversations about what like safety for children, etc., a lot of times people will say like, no, we just need more sex ed, more sex ed, more sex ed. And generally speaking, I think sexual education is a good thing. But is this? I'm concerned now. Is this the shit that they're like referring to? Like, is
I
every time they push for that, is this kind of what they're aiming for?
for for Twitch people, I would generally give them the benefit of the doubt that I would say 98% of them don't know what exactly is being pushed. They just know what pops up in in the media and what they're told not to like by the media. Because and I did this with what's his name. So I read through these concepts with Socrates TV, and he basically said, "I like it all. I didn't even know it was in there. I like this," and it's because it buys into all of their philosophy and what they want in the world. So even if it is political, it's the correct politics. I don't know if I answered your question. Hopefully, I did. If not, feel free to ask
No,
something else.
I hear you. So I'm just reading it. So I'll be honest with you. I've heard of Psychus before, but I didn't really know that much about it. They condemn Florida's rule saying that third graders can't get taught sexuality and gender identity. They bring up Hurricane Ian. I don't know why. The rule enforces the don't say gay law, leaving educators with very little guidance on what would be considered a fireable offense. I've heard this. I've actually read the law. This seems like such a stretch in terms of what would be considered an offense. It seems to me to be pretty clear.
Yeah,
Um,
they have to problematize everything they don't like. Like that's just their tactic. Other
yeah,
operational goal.
it's a political tactic for sure.
Right.
Absolutely. They don't know if they'll have the license revoked for mentioning their partner. Is mentioning their partner teaching gender identity or sexuality?
No.
Is that like part of a lesson? Like teaching it?
Only if they go, did you know people can marry these people, but a society doesn't like it? And here's why.
Yeah, because Florida's shit was obviously it was referring to
I did hear that Florida upped the gender stuff to eighth grade, which in an update of the law, I don't know if that's true, but I don't know if I like that. Like I
it's
like
not
most.
true. It's not
Okay.
true. I looked into that. It's not true.
Okay.
It's so fucked actually. Um they were selling it like that.
Okay.
And I should have known. I should have known you can't you just cannot believe people who say hold on, let me zoom in real quick so people can I should have known that like people were misrepresenting because there was like after I talked to I think I was defending DeSantis's rule on not teaching it up for third graders
Right.
and you know the whole panel was like you know yeah we agree with that or they weren't directly saying that but they were pretty quiet and challenging me when I was like saying hey it's just not unreasonable to not want you know 6-year-olds learning about you know gender identity and gender expression like quite literally like these are theories like John that come from John Money like and bad person generally but like higher order level like discussions on like what does it mean like what does identity mean and et cetera and et cetera um, and then afterwards somebody was like oh they also banned it for up to for all the way until like 12th grade I think somebody said and they posted it and the article just said yeah it was expanded until 12th grade and I didn't know how to respond because this must have been brand new um, but then I looked at it and uh, there's a very important caveat there's a
Okay.
very important caveat um, which is it does say that like I think like gender discuss lesson plans specifically aimed at like gender identity and sexuality et cetera are banned with exception to sex ed classes broadly they can still discuss it
Okay.
unfettered and other lessons I think it was like it was like history as well if the history actually involved like something to do with like gender identity and sexuality and
Sure.
et
Okay.
cetera so basically the
Okay.
rule was
Yeah.
you can't bring it into math class but you can still bring it into health class
All right. I'm
which
fine.
yeah which completely like is not how it was explained to me when
Yeah.
they said that they expanded it like there's hard exceptions for like
But
the new expansion
they're gonna say you're not allowing us to tell our stories, and you're not allowing it into English class, so you're silencing our voices. That's what,
It might actually
that
be
would be the
allowed in
intent.
English. I mean, I can actually look it up real quick. I hated that it's called "Don't Say Gay." It's so
Right?
dumb.
Just get ahead of all the messaging and run the news. Get all your people into news and teaching.
Yeah, NBC doesn't accurately report it.
Oh, wait, scroll down to a third uh, through fifth grade. I want to see you flip your head on a number of things.
Sure. Hold on a second. Okay. Third through fifth. Let's see. Second grade. Define reproduction. That makes sense. All these make sense. Yeah, I actually, I kind of agree with this. I just don't know why it's in sex ed. I mean, like, just personally, I
Oh,
agree
right.
socially, but again, I'm not sure sex ed. We should be socially engineering people.
Oh no, I'm.
Okay, grades 3 through
So
5.
basically, what they did is they added a political layer on top of a generally decent
Yeah,
2011 version, and so you'll have like 85% of this be good, and then just 15% of pure arson and cyanide.
by the end of fifth grade, students should be able to describe the role hormones play in the physical, social, cognitive, and emotional changes during adolescence and the potential role of hormone blockers on young people who identify as transgender.
I was waiting for you to get to that part specifically.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the next part.
The potential role of hormone blockers. I think it would actually be useful to discuss how hormone, like using that as an example of like the effects of hormones. That'd be interesting, but I don't like the word potential role of. Like when you say potential role of hormone blockers, to me,
It's
this
saying
reads like there's some kind of social role that there needs to be like explored among fifth graders.
it reads to me like a sales pitch.
A little bit, yeah. When they say potential role of, if instead it was describe the role hormones play in the physical, social, cognitive, and emotional changes during adolescence, and the effect of hormone blockers on young people who identify as transgender, that would be. I actually would be okay with that. To be honest with you, I think that'd be an interesting like
I mean,
analysis.
I would push back on you specifically about teaching that to young kids as far as, I mean, I don't think they need to know the point of hormone blockers, like specifically, and why that links to transgenderism.
Yeah, maybe not how it. Maybe skip the identity portion, but just simply talk about like because in my mind, I think hormone blockers actually provide an interesting window to help people understand what hormones are and like how much of an effect they have. So, um, because I mean, hormone blockers do have long term effects, right? And
Right.
so, going talking about the long term effects and like the temporary effects, how it causes changes, why it causes changes, right? It suppresses these hormones. And then kids, we know hormones do X, Y, Z. They have these effects, testosterone, estrogen, etc. I mean, I
Well,
think
this
that could be
high
part
school
of it.
biology class.
Yeah, I understand. Like maybe it's like a little bit over their head, but at the same time, like I do think I don't know if fifth grade, but definitely at some point, I think that would be appropriate just to talk about like drugs. Because I mean, health class talks about drugs and like the effects they have on the
Right.
body. So I mean, hormone blockers are they're a type of drug, right? And they can, you know, they have an effect on the body. And the whole point of health class, in my understanding, was not really to like it was to learn what affects you how and how to
Yeah.
mitigate issues that if you find them as issues, or at least understand what you're getting yourself into.
The way it's worded now is like, oh, you're feeling uncomfortable? Take these blockers.
Yeah, the potential role of hormone blockers.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way of phrasing it. In fifth grade, students should be able to distinguish between sex assigned at birth and gender identity and explain how they may or may not differ. Okay, now we're getting directly into like gender identity
Exactly.
discussions.
It's
Identify.
pure theory because it's assigned at birth and it's not just observed. And then you need to know all the types of genders.
Oh boy, hold
Gender
on.
expression.
This one's actually a little bit nefarious, I think. Identify trusted adults, including parents and caregivers, whom students can ask questions about gender role stereotypes, gender identity, and gender expression.
Yes. And then so on top of that, that leads me to another issue that's going through schools. Specifically, I know a parent who is has brought the school board to its knees basically on a deadlock. Um, they have signage. So what teachers have started doing is they've been posting pride flags and a safe signs on their windows and their walls, and then those flags will also have links to a third party sources uh, as far as to get identity or to get other resources. But they specifically post them like on their door or wall to let them know that they'd be a trusted adult to talk to on gender identities stuff.
Yeah,
But they
that's weird.
being safe. Um, and and so he basically has the board voting against it. It's like 3-2 or 4-1, but one of the board members is kind of squishy, so they're really trying to get the vote through.
So the other part of this is interesting. You said you talked with, I forget the, who'd you say you talked with about this? What was the name?
The Socrates TV.
Socrates.
The
Yeah, I know
guy.
Socrates.
Yeah,
I know Socrates.
okay.
And so Socrates said he didn't know this was in school or pushing to be in schools. I guess this specific version. It's in a couple schools apparently, but he didn't know that this was being pushed so hard. But he agrees with it because he's happy, I guess, about it because it agrees with his political
Politics. Yeah,
yeah, politics. But
and philosophy.
right, the interesting thing though is like what we're looking at here, and this is I think the important thing when we're going through this, because there's a level of dishonesty that I'm starting to realize. Because every single time that the right in this country accuses the left of pushing like gender theory in elementary schools and CRT in elementary schools, they call them liars and they call them hysterical, right? And you're just overblowing this. This is Fox News
It's a
blowing shit
double.
up.
It's
Yeah, it's
double.
constantly underplaying it. But we're
Right.
looking right now at like this is the organization that like provides the standards for sex ed, and this is like their updated. I mean, my understanding is most states have not adopted it, but this is what they're pushing as updated standards, right? And
Yes.
so, if this is what they're pushing as updated standards, they are undeniably pushing gender theory, gender identity, and expression in elementary schools, and they are undeniably, as I think we've also saw a whole bunch, not only on the documents we looked at before with social emotional learning, but also on this very document, we saw a whole bunch of stuff regarding race. Right? They're also pushing
Yep.
critical race theory. Um, and they're denying it, right? When you bring up critical race theory, they talk about it's a law school class. Like, what are you talking about? This is nothing. This is not involved in our schools. When you bring up like gender identity, gender expression, gender theory, no, that's not being pushed on fifth graders. All the Don't Say Gay bill does is stop, teachers from being able to talk about their partners. But this specific lesson plan is literally what the Florida bill was aimed at preventing, right? The bill uses the same language and like preventing the stuff that's using the exact same language as this is, right?
Hmm.
So I actually Socrates has my respect on this because if someone just comes up and says this, right? If someone just comes up and says this, yeah, I'm pushing gender identity in schools because I think it's good for kids to agree with me. And
To
this
be
is
most fair to him, it was I don't have a problem with he wanted to know. I think it was after Prime Case panel. He wanted to know what was being pushed, and so I said, "Okay, I'll show you this." And then we went through it, and he's like, "Okay, I don't have a problem with this."
yeah, he doesn't have a problem with it, right? So I appreciate that in the sense of
Yeah.
people like acknowledgement, right? So if there's an acknowledgement there of yeah, we're doing this, okay, right? There's a level of honesty there that I can respect. But so often I hear people say like gaslighting you, right? You're crazy. This isn't actually happening. You're just crazy, right? We're not doing this. We're not doing this at all. What
The
are you talking about?
Electoid, there's a specific reason for that. You're thinking in terms of truth. You have to think. They're thinking in terms of operation and operationally. They can keep doing what they're doing if they have you. If they force you to prove the validity of your point, they can deny it up until then. It's basically going every step of the narcissist's prayer and forcing the onus on you because they don't need to tell you the truth because the truth stops what they want.
Yeah, but we're looking at it right now, right? We're literally looking
Right,
at what they're pushing right now. And the truth is, like, if they could just admit it, right? This is what they're doing, right? They are absolutely trying to do this. These are arguably political questions, and they're pushing them. And
right.
just say that's what you're doing. Just say that's what you're doing. Oh my
But
God.
define and explain the differences between the cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, gender expansive, and gender identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Don't Say Gay was signed by DeSantis on Monday. It reads classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. And those state standards have already been elucidated by their sex ed standards. So yeah, I mean, this is not worded vaguely. Like classroom instruction, is it part of the lesson, right? Is this part of the instruction? That's the question. And so this is instruction, right? This is a lesson plan that they're pushing, right? This is quite literally a gridded. This is by grades. This you should learn
Yep.
the potential role of hormone blockers in young people who identify as transgender. By grade in fifth grade, you should be able to define and explain differences between cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, gender expansive, and gender identity. Gender expansive. I don't even know what this means, and I have a doctorate. I'm not in fifth grade. What is
Right.
this? What does this mean? I,
I don't either. Let me look it up. So Google doesn't even bring up a definition when I put it in. Yeah, Google doesn't even have a definition for that. I assume it means trans umbrella, including the queer. A queer, I guess. I don't know.
In 2012, the Human Rights Campaign surveyed more than 10,000 lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer youth across the United States. This report identified 925 youth who identify as transgender or wrote in their own gender. Using this sample of youth HRC and created. Okay, we have it right here. The term gender expansive came out of this report to classify youth who did not identify with traditional gender roles, but were otherwise not confined to one gender narrative or experience. That's according to the Human Rights Campaign.
So basically, they don't like the roles, which they're trying to deconstruct anyway. Except they put them up. Oh yeah. So basically, what you'll see is you're just about to see that they I talk about the gender roles, and if you don't like it, that might mean you're a gender expansive, like
Mr.
a
Darker.
JD the doctorate. Yes,
Yeah, it is. Legally, it is. You can fucking
Julius
Google it.
Doctorate.
Yeah, Juris Doctor. Yeah, technically Juris
Sure.
Doctor, but it's a real doctorate. Wikipedia. I'm right. Still better than that math book. I agree with that. That math book is hilariously bad when they specifically define white supremacy as individualism.
Well,
Oh my
to be
god,
fair,
so funny.
to push back on that point, that was a math book for teachers. This is a curriculum for students.
No, that was an instruction book to teachers how to teach math in their schools.
Right. It was a pedagogy thing and not explicit lessons, is what I meant. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, this is much more in depth for sure. This actually
yeah.
like lays out a full lesson plan. All right, let's keep going. So sexual health. Okay, this is explain the relationship between sexual intercourse and human reproduction. This is
That's fine.
critically important for health class. I fully
Yes.
agree with this. Good. Explain the range of ways pregnancy can occur. Fair. Define
Yep.
STDs, including HIV, and clarify common myths about transmission. Sure, I'm fine with that.
As I said, it's like 80-20 or 75-25, but the 25 is pure politics and pure philosophy battles.
Explain that some survivors are not believed when they disclose sexual abuse or harassment, and that it is important to keep telling trusted adults until one of the adults takes action. That's
I'm
interesting.
fine with that.
I'll have to think about that, though. I'll have to think about this one. There's
I
some
mean,
things.
that's like kind of teaching a society might not believe you or might not believe women, but I think the overall a text is meant to say if I'm giving them the utmost benefit of the doubt, you can tell more than one person. Like,
Okay, by the end of 8th grade. Now we're talking some older kids now. How power differences such as age, gender, socioeconomic status, immigration status, race, or unequal position may impact relationships.
gotta get that economic and immigration status
Yeah, I
in
noticed
there.
that. Yeah, gender. Yeah. Identify factors, body image, self esteem, alcohol, and other substances that can affect the ability to perceive consent, to give or perceive consent to sexual activity. Okay, interesting.
Have you
Okay.
seen the word boy or girl once yet?
No, and they're gonna omit that purposefully. I've already expected that. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's not too surprising.
Oh wait. I just scrolled right past it. I read the top left one. That's why I asked the question.
I think this one's fine. Describe human reproductive systems, including the external and internal body parts and their
Right.
functions that there are naturally occurring variations in human bodies. That's true. E.g., intersex, like people who are actually born with multiple body parts, vulvas, circumcised and intact penises.
The only reason I said anything was because the standard in uh, the previous 2011 explicitly talked about boys and girls there, and not bodies with natural variation.
Gotcha. I feel like you should make a bingo card out of this to find your real opinion. This would be, yeah, playing bingo. Like, I feel like you could make a bingo game out of this, right? Like, what's a reasonable, like, what's a reasonable thing that they should be taught in health class? And then you have like a sheet, and we could play bingo with this. That'd be an interesting stream.
Right? And they're going to teach you how to analyze information.
Access medically accurate sources of information about gender, gender identity, and gender expression.
Analyze people's intersecting identities. You skip past that.
I'm looking. I'm reading left to right, or sorry, right to left as well. Analyze how peers, family, and a person's intersecting identities can influence attitudes, beliefs, and expectations about gender, gender identity, gender roles,
I
and
mean, that's
gender
all
expression.
intersectionality right there.
Most of this is about gender expression and gender identities. I feel like the things I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like this is really important for health class. Like this is 1 in 4 maybe
Right.
shit that I've been seeing. I'll have to count it all up to see if it's actually 1 in 4. But that's just like maybe I'm just perceiving like these ones as being more frequent. But it definitely seems like that, right? Like every single one of these, sexual orientation, blah blah blah.
Most people have a sexual orientation.
And what?
Most.
Yeah. Well, doesn't everybody? Isn't asexual like a sexual orientation? Maybe I'm wrong about that. See, if I had these classes in 5th grade, I would know, but I don't.
Right?
Yeah, fuck. I guess this is an example of why we need this. Okay, define sexual identity and explain a range of identities related to sexual orientation: heterosexual, bisexual, lesbian, gay, queer, two-spirit, asexual, pansexual. Okay, great.
And there have been worksheets discovered where they identify the various different sexualities.
To be fair, this is, I mean, so one thing, this is 8th grade, so we're talking a little bit older kids. But two, like this is, again, like political, and this is they're specifically. I would at least have been specifically told that they're not doing this when it's what they're doing, right?
Yes, they're expressly.
I think this whole section might be good.
Yes, anything about AIDS is pretty much um, a copy paste from the previous.
Define
Of
prenatal care, yeah.
pretty much good.
Yeah, this whole section's. I can't see a single issue I have with anything here.
No, that's anything dealing with sexual health is pretty much already been there since
Yeah, this
the.
is not like a political issue right here. Okay, all right. Describe pregnancy testing. This is good. Yes, you need to know that for health. STDs, yes. I mean, sexual health specifically, yes.
I didn't know about this one. Like descriptively, maybe it says discuss current biomedical approaches to preventing STDs, including HPV, HIV, and PrEP and PEP. Oh wait, never mind. That wasn't.
This is fine. PrEP apparently
Yes,
is like pretty good in terms of preventing HIV, so that's
never
cool.
mind. That was the one. Okay.
Yeah, the good stuff is just like mostly common sense, I feel. But keep in mind, like this is something interesting that it was explained to me a while ago, which is when we when we remember things, we tend to like memory's not perfect. We tend to remember things a lot less like a video recording and much more like a theater, right? Where things are sort of accurate, but
Yep.
we can misremember things. And the most common thing that is a fault in human memory is we look at our memories, we look back on the theater of our memories with the knowledge that we have now. And so like thinking
That talks
back,
about that.
yeah, like thinking back about like, when we were in 7th grade or like whatever, like, oh, this is all common sense. Kids don't know shit. And like a lot of this stuff, I don't think it really is common sense. So, I mean, I think all this stuff is good to be educating kids on because kids, I mean, most kids probably don't know how to prevent HIV and they might not even know what HIV is.
Right.
It's,
No,
it's
I mean that's all fine and dandy. That part.
yeah, for sure.
You're about to get to one part that I.
Define racism. It wouldn't be sex ed without some definitions of racism.
Yep.
And describe their impacts on sexual health. How does
And
racism impact
reality.
sexual health? I mean, I could get creative. Like black people have less. Do they have less access to condoms? I mean, there's more Planned Parenthoods in black neighborhoods, right? So I would assume there'd be more
Yeah.
access to condoms. I don't know. Well, define racism. That's apparently important to sex ed.
And define intersectionality.
Yes, and define intersectionality. Oh my god, dude.
How would you think about this? I had one. I came across this reading that document. Um, One of these suggested lessons I was having each one of your students go out and buy a condom. I
I don't know. That's interesting.
it made me think because I don't like that you're telling them how to spend their money, but then I also wouldn't like if you gave them school money. But like again, knowing where to get them, fine. I like that. Like you, now you're about to get really into this stuff.
End of 10th grade. Oh my god, I can't wait. Let's see what's going on here.
Gotta talk about how porn changes you.
As long as they're not showing it in classrooms, I think that's fine. Like, there's like evidence that like porn can be bad, right?
Right. Analyze how peers, media, family friendly, and culture and a person's intersecting identities can influence self concept, body image, and self esteem.
Yeah.
Gotta
Differentiate
bring
between sex
intersectionality.
assigned. Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Differentiate between sex assigned at birth, gender identity, and gender expression.
Describe the impact of racism and inequality in on sexual health.
So if you had, let's say you were a family, let's say you were a family that didn't agree with like transgender as a concept,
Okay.
would you be able to opt out of this like these specific? I mean, I don't know if you could. It seems like they're like highly involved in every single lesson plan. But would you be able
So
to
that
opt
goes.
out of that?
So that's going to go state by state. I believe California and Washington got rid of the opt out. In Wisconsin, you can still opt out. However, as we noted before, these concepts are also spreading to social studies and English, and I'm pretty sure there's no opt out in that. It's but to answer your question, you have to consult your state law. In Wisconsin, so far, you can and you should be notified. But they are getting sneakier with that actually, and sometimes they'll include like the only opportunity to opt out is one of the first days when they send something a take home, and they wouldn't let you opt out like if you found out about the lesson of the day before or something like that.
Identify medically accurate sources of information about and local services that provide contraceptive methods, including emergency contraception and condoms, and pregnancy options, including parenting, abortion, adoption, and prenatal care.
You got to go look where the abortion centers are.
You have to, yeah, identify local services that provide abortion. If you read what if you cut out everything else it's including.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I think makes it would make that one to me seems a little bit like abortion is absolutely a political concept. Or sorry, it's a political situation in America right now, obviously.
But if
But
it's
it's
like
yeah, unlike racism or like I guess gender expression, like it
it's something objective,
it seems to be much more related to like sex ed, right? In my mind,
right?
at least.
Yes,
So
it's definitely much more topical. It's just also political.
yes, that's a good way of putting it. It's definitely more topical, but it's also political.
Explain state laws related to safe haven parenting, including their impacts on oppressed communities. It's the next one down, yeah. Define reproductive justice and explain its history and how it relates to sexual health. Unsafe neighborhoods.
Okay, what's safe haven? I
Okay,
googled
so
it and
I found two definitions, and so it seemed weird. Um, One had to do with dropping off kids at fire departments or hospitals.
gotcha, of course.
Was that? And so that seemed fine, but anything outside of that seemed really weird.
Safe haven laws. Yeah, I knew that. I just
Yeah. Yeah. A parent can leave there unharmed.
Ah,
Oh, which one?
look at the bottom right. Asterisk. Please see best practices on trigger warnings on page 10 of the
Oh, yeah.
SNSES. So is that on here? I want to find that. Hold on.
Oh,
We're on
yeah.
page 32. We can go back.
That's going to be trauma informed language. I assume that's what page 10 is, if I remember.
Oh no.
Because we're
So
educated.
so this okay. We're gonna rant a
That's
little bit about this right now. So
that's really dumb.
yeah. So as a guiding
Milestones
principle,
of pregnancies.
educators should always utilize trauma-informed strategies when implementing such education. This includes, for example, giving trigger warnings before beginning to teach content on sexual violence and allowing students the right to pass as appropriate. Indicated throughout the NSES with an asterisk are places where educators may want to include a trigger warning before introducing and discussing sensitive material related to interpersonal or sexual violence or other trauma. There is the APA has done reviews on trigger warnings, and trigger warnings are bad, like just objectively. They're bad for your psychological health.
They
Trigger,
raise, yeah,
yeah, they
they raise stress level.
they specifically found that trigger warnings will lead to people identifying more with their trauma as an integral part of their identity as a person.
And
Um,
now, question on top of that: what did you just read that has to do with the milestones of each trimester field development? Because that's where you found that asterisk.
oh yeah, hold on a second. Let's take a look. Well, I'm just saying, like that's just blatantly unscientific with
Right, right.
what they're requesting there. Like the
You were
APA.
you were on page 32.
Please see
Yeah.
best. Okay, so
No,
asterisk. Where is it?
next page.
No, they have an asterisk right here.
All right.
Demonstrate the ability to effectively communicate with a partner about abstaining from sexual behavior using condoms and/or contraception and prevention, etc. Testing, getting treatment for STDs. A trigger warning before. This is like one of the good ones, and they put a trigger warning on it.
Well, because it says demonstrate, and so I would assume you'd run through examples of situations.
Okay,
So it
gotcha.
would mimic. Compare and contrast a
Yeah.
healthy, unhealthy
A
relationships.
lot of them are about the consent stuff, which
Right.
that makes sense why they would put it on those ones. But again, trigger warnings are just objectively not good for you. You can look it
Yeah.
up. There's no scientific basis to use them, so this is not good. Especially because I'm assuming this would be done in an age appropriate manner, but who knows?
Well, is it really age appropriate if by the end of the second grade you have to know gender identity and genders?
Second grade, yeah, that's a good point. All right, with the end of 12th grade, let's skip to the 12th grade. This
All
is
right.
you're graduating high school. Yeah, you've
I'm gonna be
finished
a
your
big boy.
public education. You're a big boy. You're an adult. Let's see what's here.
Oh, we have a mention of pleasure. Analyze how media
Analyze.
portrayals of healthy and unhealthy relationships impact societal norms about romantic, sexual relationships and pleasure.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd be curious where they go with this one.
Right.
Analyze cultural and social factors, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, racism, ableism, classism that can influence decisions regarding sexual behavior.
I never once cared about a girl's class after her clothes came off.
Jesus Christ. Describe the human sexual response cycle, including the role of hormones and pleasure. Okay. Now we're getting into some weird territory.
I
This is the
mean,
second
I mean
time they
that.
mentioned pleasure.
I mean that's gonna. I would assume that would be the orgasm and how that biologically works in order to help fertilize an egg.
Yeah, why
But
don't they say that? Why don't they talk about like how this is how the orgasm affects the brain as opposed to like pleasure just sounds weird. I don't know.
oh, it
Maybe I'm
it
being a
definitely
prude.
sounds weird. It does sound weird. It sounds like a weird space. I will give you that.
Also, if you notice, almost all these now are starting to get the asterisk. Like it's going way up.
Oh yeah. Explain how support from peers, schools, and communities can improve someone's health and well-being as it relates to gender identity and gender expression.
With trigger
That's
warning.
that's twisting the knife. That is, you have to recognize others because otherwise you're harming them. That is, you must believe in this stuff. Otherwise, you are the harming person.
Analyze ways systemic oppression and intersectionality impact the sexual agency of communities of color and other marginalized communities.
Yay! This is
Again, this is in our schools.
correct. Then you have to advocate for school and community policies that promote safety, respect, and equity. Remember our discussion on equity.
Oh no, is there a whole nother fucking
No, that's just it's
summary?
reorganized.
Okay, summary, sure.
So it was done by grade level, and now it's done by a topic section.
Ooh, they have a glossary. Ableism. Abstinence only until marriage programs.
The old way.
The old way. Adoption. Okay. Agender, a person who does not identify with any gender.
But that is a gender.
No, it's agender actually.
But that is a gender.
Hey, thanks Gibbs, for. Well, hold on. Thanks Darko for gifting a sub. Really appreciate that. I misread it for a second. My bad. Oh, I appreciate that. So I heard that Elon Musk is considering this to be a slur. Is that a meme? Do you know anything about that?
It got some push on Twitter because of the way that trans rights activists were using it, as far as people only really were calling people cis to differentiate and or demean. Like
Yeah.
it had taken up a slur like manner of use. Um, it- but I think the big thing was that the left was defining slurs by how the person that was called it experienced it. So people were saying, okay, then cis is a slur if you use it on me. And they were just, it was a turn of logic to show them why it was dumb. And then Elon was like, okay, we should do that. I didn't really find anything interesting in the glossary when I read it. But if you want to page through, that's fine.
A fact. A provable, accurate statement based on scientific, medical, legal, sociological, or psychological research, or the opinion of most experts in a field. I don't know if that's true. Hypothesis and theories can count if they are identified as such. Okay.
Then they're
The
not facts.
following, yeah, I don't know. The following is an example of a fact relevant to sex education. Youth who receive comprehensive sex education are not more likely to become sexually active or experience negative sexual health outcomes. Um, okay. I don't think this is a terrible. If this is the way they're using it, I guess I get it.
Oh, so they do define a reproductive justice, a term coined by 12 black women to define the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children we have in a safe and sustainable communities. In addition, reproductive justice demands sexual autonomy and gender freedom for every human being.
Wait, I thought you were kidding. It's literally a term coined by 12 black women.
Yeah,
Why? Why?
you have to teach it and you have to demand gender freedom.
This is crazy. Can I hop in? Yeah, you can hop in. Do you join? Darko might be joining us.
Sure,
Um, he may be a lefty though, so just be careful.
it's all
Uh,
good.
you go
I
ahead
was
and
able to
join.
talk with Socrates, so
We'll drag him in. We'll drag him
I will never recognize a sex assigned at birth.
in. Okay. Darko, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're quiet. Oh, no,
Can you hear
you're
me?
good. Yeah, I can hear you now. I got a quick
Sure.
question for you, Darko. I wanna ask you a question real quick before you say what you wanted to say. So, reproductive justice, a term coined by 12 black women. Why in the glossary did they identify that this term was coined by 12 black women?
I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I don't, I don't. When it comes down to me for like logical, like good ideas, like the etymology of like right, right. Like the light bulb was invented by someone who like was objectively kind of a bad person.
It reminds me of that one scene from Impractical Jokers where they're all sitting around the table and like they're writing each other's like thing, and he's like, "What?" Like they're asked to like, "Who would you bring along to the city that you would create?" And one of them is like, right to the other person, the man who invented birth control, and it's hilarious, right? Because why would you emphasize that it was a man that created birth control? Like that's a weird thing to do. It'd be like, like who in like under the definition of airplane, an invention by two white men. Like, it just seems weird that they would put in a term coined by 12 black women. Like, why is it important that it's coined by 12 black women? Why don't they name the people that coined it?
Because
No, I
their
mean,
group membership matters more.
yeah, because yeah, I mean, yeah. People will select by ethnicity faster than race. 1000%.
I don't know. I thought you were joking when you read off a term coined by 12 black women. That's hilarious. I'm gonna, yeah, that's interesting. Okay. What's up, Darko? How you doing?
Pretty right. Actually, random question: is it okay if I stream this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course.
Sure.
Okay, for sure. Um, yeah,
Are you
I just
gonna?
want to make sure that was fine.
Yeah, of course.
Right, for sure. Uh,
Oh,
but yeah, just been a long day, doing a lot of dumb shit.
Fair enough. What do you think about? Because I know you're probably a little bit to the left of me and Roland here. I mean, what are your thoughts on some of the? I guess my question for you is, did you know that this stuff was on actual or proposed lesson plans for sex ed? Like, did
well,
you know
I'll
this
be
was the one?
clear. to be most clear, Lactoid, these aren't lesson plans. These are guidelines for curriculum makers to follow to get into the lesson plans.
Yeah, that to me that seems like a lesson plan. But sure, if we wanted to be very specific about it, I guess did you know that something like this actually existed?
I'm sorry. I just got asked like 8 questions, and I'm not sure which one to answer.
Fair. Did you know that this existed? The National Sex Education Standards, core content
Yeah,
and
there's
skills.
like a museum of sex in New York. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. I like I'm sorry if I have to be the one to tell you this, but like none of us would be here uh without cum. And
If only
like
they put that in the lesson plans.
I mean that should be step 1.
A true statement has never been said.
That would be a fact, as dictated here in the glossary. Approvable, accurate statement based on scientific consensus of most experts in the field. I think that's a fact. I would
It
think.
might be a hypothesis or theory that can count, though.
I don't know. I think we're beyond hypothesis on that one. I think that one has had a very broad sample size, rigorously tested throughout history. I think this is pretty factual.
Jesus wasn't born because of cum, therefore I take down the entire theory.
Ooh, ooh. I didn't think of that one. That's a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. How did Jesus get his Y chromosome?
God made that Y chromosome special for him.
We're gonna
I'm not
skip this.
religious. I'm just telling them jokes, man.
I mean, same. I'm talking about like trans Jesus here. Like I mean, I'm like only like 40% kidding, but like it's 60% funny, I think. I don't know. I'm bad at jokes sometimes.
It's 100% a joke then.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Did you have questions or would you want to hop on about?
I don't I don't know. I
You can
like
just hang out if you want. I mean, up to you.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Well, like my first like 3 days that I spent 3 hours in 3 discords in 3 days, and I just like was public enemy like number 1. Like I was like like insulting uh Lactoid's intelligence, and like just like like implying maybe he shouldn't breed, and like I don't know, like I came in real hot, and I recognize that, and like like I'm not condoning it. I I disavow my
You disavow your hotness?
right. Yeah, I mean, I just sometimes I get a little aggro when I'm like
We all get a little aggro.
would I
Oh,
know that I'm like really right.
Well, I don't know if those debates you were really right. I mean, we can argue about that later. Although I'm not sure we can have that discussion, the specific discussion we had on Twitch, but
Right.
maybe. Power. This is their definition of power that they have in the glossary. Access to resources, social power, that enhance one's chances of living a relatively more comfortable, productive, and safe life. Wealth, whiteness, citizenship, patriarchy, heterosexism, and education are a few key social mechanisms through which power operates.
notice they didn't say the only. It's just an open-ended list.
It's a few. Yeah, of course, there's plenty more that they meant to include, but whiteness was an important one.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it can also how like people perceive you, like um yeah.
The
Or
concern
what
with this is
what
like there's
page are
other
you on?
reasons.
Sorry.
Oh, we're on page the PDF 68, the document
Okay.
66. We're down in the. I'm glad we're looking at the glossary. The coined by 12 black
Yeah.
women, but that one was good.
It was funnier than I thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Oh, it's almost funny. Like on page 66 of the page, incest is there, and it was like 3 pages away from being nice.
Oh, where's incest? Hold on.
Page 66. So
Sexual contact between persons who are so closely related that marriage between the two people would be considered illegal.
not second cousins?
That's vague as fuck. What the fuck?
That's not even right. Wait. Doesn't that mean second cousins wouldn't be in that definition?
Yeah, I don't think that's actually incest by definition. Their definition here might be like surprisingly accurate, but it's weird that it would be like
Or it's not actually like that weird. It's just like there's like a 3 generational cycle almost where like like if you take a 23andMe test, it's like mostly bullshit, and it's like like where the past 3 generations of your family have lived, because like when you move to different regions, you eat different foods, like you optimize for different enzymes so that you can survive the best there, and like it's not uh
Oh, and then Lacto, I'm posting someone else in chat. You should follow. She's on the sex ed stuff on Twitter. She's also covering the whole community, whole school models, whole child, the WSCCC.
yeah, I'll take a look.
I really like their definition for uh intersex. It's
Ooh, let's look at that.
it's
I've
way
skipped over
open.
that.
Right. Actually, I got into an argument with someone lately, because like someone was trying to like stick up for the word, like it's like, hey, like we should stop saying mom. We should start saying birthing
The
parent.
birthing person,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Not if you're
Like,
Anna-Katharian.
right. But like, yeah, like if you're proud of being a mom, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I don't think someone else should tell you to not say that anymore. I don't know. It's weird.
They don't have it in the standards birthing person. They don't. I mean, I don't think they have mom or dad either, but they don't have that. So
Just wait till the next update.
the next update, yeah.
It might be there,
This is an antiquated and bigoted
right?
standards. They don't conform to the times. Privilege, okay. Privilege is often invisible to those who have it.
Whoa, holy shit. Dude, I just read the word rape out of nowhere and there was no trigger warning. What the fuck? I am
Did you get triggered?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Yeah, they don't have. Oh, I guess this is for teachers. So, yeah. Below it is my favorite definition: the reproductive justice, a term coined by 12 black women. You know, what would be most funny if they just left it at that. If they put a period after women and just removed the rest of this, I would be dying. I would be dying. I just wish. Oh my god, I really wish that was the case. I almost want to edit it now just to like get rid of this and then like take a screenshot and make a meme out of it. I don't know. It would just require too much context to be a good meme, but it would. I would
Right.
laugh.
That I mean, I don't those 12 black women have no names and no titles and no credentials and no link, and
All that matters is they were black and they were women.
It's just so random. Like,
I
just
mean,
12 black women said this, so we went with it.
Except the next version, it will say 12 birthing people.
Ooh,
wait, what birthing people?
birthing persons.
Or why do you keep correcting like persons and person? Are those like specifically different to you?
That's a good question. I do hear people using persons more now than people. I think because people has a negative connotation now, right? You people, like that kind of like makes people think, oh, like you're being racist or whatever, as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah.
like persons. That's what they're saying, like persons of color. I think now that's becoming a new, like a more socially appropriate thing. I think because they're trying to avoid that connotation.
That's one of my favorite new jokes. Is like someone like I'll be at a party and someone will spill something and someone will be like, "There's some colored tellers, some colored towels over there," and I'll stop and be like, "I think you mean towels of color," and give them like a white guilt look. And
Yeah, that's the new meme for sure. I do that all the time too. Sexual intercourse may mean different things to different people. Okay, but could include this. All right.
yeah, you know what? I think I approve of pretty much like this whole thing. Like I
Oh,
think
Darko, come on.
this is like this is like at like 70% solid.
70% solid, you think?
Yeah.
Would you want to get rid of the other 30% then? Or would you be fine getting rid of the 30%?
Or I mean, I just like the 30% that I disagree with, like I've read some stuff on and it might be it might be real, but you know, I don't think we have enough data to say yet.
They changed the definition of transgender. Read the transgender definition. That makes everyone transgender, or that makes tomboys trans.
Oh, see also
Uh,
gender nonconforming. Yeah, I think that'd be a different
No, no,
definition now.
yeah, I mean, see
no,
also
no. You missed it.
autism.
Read it again.
Darko, you can't.
What autism? Like it's ASD, autism spectrum disorder. It's not antisocial personality disorder. That's not what it is at all. Um,
You're just about to get there, lactoid.
A person whose gender identity and or expression is not aligned with the sex they were assigned at birth. That's
So
right, isn't it?
if you don't have the expression of a girl and you're wearing boys' clothes, does that mean you're transgender?
I don't know if that's what they mean by gender expression, but they identify
It,
they define that. So let's go up and look.
oh, no. They don't say gender expression. They say expression.
No, I think they have gender
no,
expression.
it's a
Yeah,
trifecta,
they
right?
do right here.
Yeah, yeah.
The manner in which people outwardly express their gender through, for example, clothing, appearance, or mannerisms.
Right,
So
right.
if so
So like
if a girl
if
wears
you
boys' clothing, she's transgender.
She could be, but not necessarily because it's and or, right?
right,
And slash or, so pretty
right.
broad there.
And there's also like a lot of a lot of weird cases where like like some women just like feel like boys most of the time and like never actually do anything about it. Um,
That's just personality.
I mean, yep.
But lactoid, if it's and or, it still must be one of those two. Correct? It's not. You don't have to be either that. It it's either A or B or A and B.
A person whose gender identity, so if it's and, then it's like their identity and their expression is not aligned. If it's or, it could just be their gender identity is not aligned with the sex they were assigned at birth.
Right, right.
I don't have an
Or
issue with this definition.
no. What I'm
Or
saying is,
wait.
or
I
I'm
feel
saying
like
their gender
it's
identity could
missing.
align.
Yeah,
But if their expression, as in they're wearing boys' clothes, doesn't, that automatically makes them transgender because their expression isn't aligning with the sex they were assigned at birth. Because
Maybe,
that
maybe I don't know.
or
Yes.
I think a more important thing like that they're leaving out is like the third part, which is like gender norms, where like again like some people's gender expression like might like like not be considered trans in other communities. That's a hypothesis I have. I have no data to back that up, but like it's just like a thought that I have that it's like maybe some dudes want to wear skirts, and maybe most of them live in Scotland, and you know
Then we
feel like
just say it's a dude wearing a skirt. But now they're teaching that what you do and how you express yourself makes you a specific gender. That means you aren't your sex assigned at birth,
yeah,
which is totally different.
you just conflated literally every part of like from like the sex you're assigned at birth to like the gender norms of society to the gender expressions you're
Okay,
comfortable with and your
so
gender identity
if I wanted to
inside.
break
Like
this,
so,
if I wanted to break this down, they're teaching the gender norms in order to say if you're not meeting these norms, you might be trans, and so that is inducing some transness because there is some uncomfortability or some distaste for
oh,
some
whoa,
of
whoa,
the
whoa.
norms.
Can I pause you for like a second, like real
Sure.
quick? Um, do you think you can like make someone or unmake someone uh uh gay?
Gay. Well, first off, we don't know what causes gayness, so that's an open-ended question.
For sure. But like are there any available therapies right now like, that have been, approved by anybody as like a treatment for being gay? Like,
Why are
just
you
like,
arguing
hey,
by Why are you arguing by analogy? Let's go to what's right on gender.
um I mean because sorry, I forgot the analogy I was making.
You
Um
were you were trying to use a gay as an analogy in order to state that because we don't know what causes gay, or sorry, you can't unmake a gay, you can't unmake a trans. So I think you were trying to get to the a question of can you induce either gender questioning or transness in a person. I believe that's where you were going. I don't know if that
um
rattles any bells if I'm right or not, but that's where I thought that you were going.
uh kind of like I don't know. I guess like that's just like a mixed bag. Like I would definitely be against like a government mandate, like saying like, hey, like this will make you feel not trans anymore. Like I think the option for like HRT and like other stuff should be
I-
reasonably
In
uh
adults, I would agree with you.
yeah, yeah. um uh uh um I fuck, I'm sorry. I I can't get to the point that I wanted to make, I guess.
That's all right. If it comes up again, feel free to say it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll figure it out.
But I didn't realize all these points or all these organizations that help them.
Yeah, I'm going through them right now.
I know advocates for youth, CICUS, and what I say, answers at Rutgers were big. That's the answer. But
Yeah, Seekus is definitely the partner. It's weird. The APA is a partner, but the APA specifically published research that said the trigger warnings were bad. So I'm interesting. It's interesting to see them named here.
no one really cares about trigger warnings.
Gender
Uh,
spectrum,
Speaking of that,
race forward. That's a
did did you see that a WPATH is adding a eunuch as a gender?
I think something more interesting is this organization here, Race Forward, endorse Black Lives Matter.
I would expect most of these organizations here to endorse Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, that's fair. So
I expect.
Sister Song. What is Sister Song? You mentioned that. I'll look that up
Oh,
too.
that's where I got the reproductive justice definition from. I didn't I didn't explicitly click on them, but uh, Visioning New Futures for Reproductive Justice, a Declaration 2023.
Oh,
Human rights own our bodies to have children, to not have children, and to parent in safe and sustainable communities. So therefore, they will be anti-crime and very pro everything under the banner of sustainability. And I'm assuming safe will also mean emotionally safe for them. Oh, that's the other keyword is the thing we're starting to see pop up in our school board that they're going to come after is instituting safety in our mission and vision statements. And they're going to fuck with the definition of safety because everyone at this council or this community meeting was trying to include all sorts of resources and levels of funding in order to create a safe environment under the term safety. Which, if you include emotional safety, that would mean not misgendering or affirming everything about them. Hey,
yeah,
Candace.
interesting. Sister Song, by the way, you should look that up. Oh, don't look it up on stream though, because their front page has like a breastfeeding photo, and I don't know if that's allowed on Twitch.
I do have their vision page open. Their About Us is their Southern-based national membership organization to build an effective network of individuals and organizations to improve institutional policies and systems that impact the reproductive lives of marginalized communities.
A lot of these are just advocacy, like political advocacy groups. Some of them
Yes,
here are not, like the Mayo
the,
Clinic, for example, which is one of the best hospitals in America. But
they're politically advocacy organizations because CKIS is sex ed for social change.
yeah, CCAS is pretty straight to the point, right?
It's even in the name. It's not even the slogan there. CKIS colon sex ed for
Wow.
social change.
All right. Roland, is there? I mean, we totally went through this. Is there? This started off. We kind of went through this whole thing because we started off by talking about,
SEL.
yeah,
The
well,
library.
SEL, but also like investigations into school boards specifically about like sex ed standards. I mean, other than this, is there anything more that we should take a look at?
Um, we went through the equity definition last time. I'm looking at my notes. Probably not unless you want to get so detailed into this HGD document. But the big thing there is that they referenced the CICUS guidelines. But so the CICUS standards are the big stuff I wanted to go over, and then naming the programs of either transformative social emotional learning or um, a portrait of a graduate. Those were the big points. So I'm pretty good.
All right. Um, Darko, is there anything specific you want to take a look at?
Go to your school board and advocate for your cause.
Oh, I'll make some normative claims here in a second, but I wanted to know, Darko, if you had any I guess any thoughts on this? Any final thoughts? Guess he must have stepped out for a second. All right, so a couple of things here. I want to wrap up some thoughts here.
Uh,
The first thing I want to say, and this is a great page just to leave it on. I'm going to read the purpose here. We went through the whole thing. I think pretty exhaustively, actually,
quite deep.
for a stream. And the purpose statement of this here is purpose of the National Sex Education Standards. This is what they claim to be the goal: to provide clear, consistent, and straightforward guidance on the essential minimum core content and skills needed for sex education that is age appropriate for students in grades K through 12 to be effective. This is what they claim the purpose is. Time and time again, and you know, we also, of course, saw before we talked about, you know, the math, anti-racist math, social emotional learning, critical democracy, how individualism is a symptom of white supremacy, how collectivism, how individualism breeds utilitarianism, and how collectivism is actually critical for a critical democracy. And I think of everything that we just went through today, I think one thing is crystal clear. Whether you agree with this or not, it's happening, right? Like whether you agree with it or not, whenever anybody tells you this isn't happening, nobody's pushing for this, you're crazy. Like you're crazy. You're listening to too much Fox News. Tucker Carlson's in your ear. Like, what are you doing? Ron DeSantis has got you brainwashed. If you go and look at the actual source material, they are doing exactly what Twitter trolls and Discord debate lords are telling you that they're not doing, right? This actually is what's happening. So that's disturbing to me. The fact that this is happening, and it's happening with a sort of like, you know, they're speaking out both sides of their mouth, right? They're doing it, and then they're saying they're not doing it. It's happening, and they're denying it. And so, I mean, the last panel, I think it was Scott who was like, you know, the first you deny it, isn't this like an abuse tactic? I'm pretty sure this is an abuse tactic, right? Like with deny, what's it called again?
There's a DARVO, a deny, attack, a reverse order of offender.
Yeah, DARVO. Deny, they deny it. Then they attack. They call you a racist or homophobic. And reverse victim and offender. Actually, it's you trying to come after us. This to me seems like classic DARVO, actually, what's happening. And I just wish there was a little bit more honesty when it comes to what's happening. And I think we went through enough this stream to show that it is, and that people are pushing for this. People are pushing in many places in this country for this. And, you know, if you agree with it, then this should be good news to you, right? You're winning. But if you don't agree with it, then yeah, you should be concerned. And I do think that, you know, if we're going to have public schools, who pays for the public schools? The parents pay for the public schools. And if we're going to have public schools, I think it's perfectly rational to have parents and the public have some interest in the books that are in our children's libraries and the curriculum that our kids are learning, and the training that teachers are getting before they go on to teach children. I think all of that is absolutely a matter of public importance. And the fact that we get nothing but denials and shit hidden, and in fact, articles deleted. We had to use the Wayback Machine to find one article because they had deleted it. I think shows some disturbing behavior at the very most, or sorry, at the very least, some disturbing behavior at the very least. I don't know what the ultimate intention here of this, what the ultimate intention of this here is, but I have a personal philosophy where whenever anybody's being, whenever somebody's not being upfront, or when a movement's not being upfront, or if they exist to simply, if they operate by distorting criticisms and denying reality, I immediately become skeptical of everything that they say, right? Like, you know, we don't have evidence that the Chinese are committing the atrocities that they are in East Turkestan, Xinjiang. But the fact that the Chinese won't let us go look immediately makes me worried, right? Whenever anybody says, I'm not doing anything wrong, but don't come look. That's like the biggest red flag you could possibly imagine. And that is what's happening here. It's not happening, guys. It's not happening, but please don't come look. Don't go looking. We're going to delete it if you look too much. We don't want you at these meetings. We don't this is something that we don't want you to see. That's disturbing. And no, I appreciate you posting these links, Roland, and I'm definitely going to be referencing them in future discussions.
Welcome. And I also linked the narcissist prayer because you'll either get a download or it'll be the narcissist prayer to be like, it's not happening, ... Oh, it is happening, and it's good.
Yeah, and this is also on my Discord. You guys can go take a look at it. And there are studies that show, and this is going to be my parting jab at the left, because I want to make it, and we have a political angle here. Psychologically, left wingers are much more likely to be narcissistic, just like overwhelmingly, and psychological research demonstrates this like pretty undeniably. So I'm not sure if I'm too surprised that Darvo is being utilized by people who are not openly defending this, but are like quietly defending this is what seems to be happening.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, cool. Well, thank you, Roland. And Darko, I know you probably stepped away, but thank you as well. We're going to go ahead and
enjoy using all the links.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be posting a lot of these links in my Discord. For those of you who are interested, they're still in chat. Go ahead and click on them. And for those of you who are new to the channel, if you like this kind of content, sometimes we do more reading research streams. We did this for the affirmative action one, in which we did a stream where we went through a lot of affirmative action documentation, and we went through the opinion, the ultimate opinion and dissents on the affirmative action decision. Today we did one on, the education of our children. We going through facts. We do a lot of debates here, debate panels, but we try to keep it. I like for this community to be to switch up and do multiple different things. So if you're interested in that kind of content, please consider giving me a follow so you can see that content come up again in the future. And then in the meantime, though, we're going to go ahead and end now, and we're going to go ahead and rate on out. We're going to see what some other people are talking about before we choose who to rate on out into. What do you think? Who do you think we should rate on out into, Rowland?
I don't have anyone that I follow live, so I've got no one.
Yeah, I'm looking through.
Alley Cat says we should mention a bad StarCraft play.
Bad? Alley Cat. Bad StarCraft play. Oh my god. It's not that bad. I do good StarCraft play every once in a while. Good StarCraft. I don't know what Alley Cat's talking about. This is slander, or I guess in writing it'd be libel, as Jonah Jameson so famously pointed out in Spider-Man 1. I think we're actually just going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and rate on out into Zonia, actually, because we spent a lot of time here talking, going over everything, and I've talked with Zonia.
She's cool.
Yeah, she seems to be a pretty fair.
Except she's watching Destiny on the whatever podcast.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the concern.
There's a person called
like a drama stream. I'm not sure. I don't like those drama streams.
There's a person called If You're Feeling Adventurous, who is
that scares me.
Shirtless, but he's watching Shoe on Head.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We are not doing that.
He's watching Shoe on Head's review of Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. Here's what we're going to do.
It's Thursday. It's like dead on Twitch.
Yeah, it's pretty dead, but we're going to go ahead and rate on out into my good friend. We talked a lot about racial justice and racial equity today. I
Joe.
no Prime Kai's
Oh,
my good friend who is very interested in racial equity and justice. Um, I think I think we should engage in some justice and
Yeah.
right on out to him. So
Yeah.
I-
Support small black businesses.
absolutely,
go.
yeah, that's what it is. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Again, thank you all so much for swinging on by and going through everything with us here. Thank you to Roland and Darko for hopping on and chatting and giving us information and all that good shit. So
Welcome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Have a good one, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
have a good one, guys. Have
Okay.
fun.